And we are live. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Tonight, the Arch has the pleasure to welcome prestigious guests. Conflip Canada from GMX, IT Burns from GMX Blueberry Club, Luis Guzman from Starkware. And I'm going to briefly present the Arch for those who don't know us. We are an association of Web3 builders, and we help each other on all crypto verticals, so legal, marketing, recruitment, beta testing, and so on. We aim to create synergies between projects, and it has been a great journey so far, building in the bear. And I'm really happy to have you here tonight. And maybe can you present for the French community, maybe Conflip, if you can start?
Hi. My introduction, you were saying?
Yeah. What are you doing for GMX? And how did you get into crypto?
Oh goodness, how did it? Well, okay, I'll do what do I do at GMX? I do a little bit of everything, but generally speaking, it's call it ecosystem building, partnerships, really just trying to sort of help build out our community of builders and everybody in and around GMX. And how did I get into crypto? I regrettably saw the articles more than a decade ago, but didn't buy anything then. But in 2017, started looking at crypto, looked at a lot of ICOs, thought, oh, wow, so many interesting things. But really, my real journey, I think, started back in 2020, where I finally saw that a lot of the things that I started seeing in 17 and 18 were starting to actually happen in DeFi, especially. And that's where I just went head deep in.
Really cool. And IT Burns, your turn.
Yeah, so I started first as a developer. Used to work in your good old company, your dinosaur company, and as a developer, I started to delve into investing because working in a boring company is boring. So delved into investing and discovered blockchain, the idea of connecting finance to programmable finance seemed very interesting to me. And slowly delved into blockchain and saw the chaos that is Ponzi-nomics and crazy projects, and saw that there needs to be some fundamentals. So I looked for fundamentals, and I discovered GMX. And from that then on, the community itself, we decided to create our own Ponzi project. No, just kidding. We also try to build fundamentals on it. So we created the GMX Blueberry Club, which is an NFT that has its own NFT that is based on its own revenue mechanism, and the idea is that we build products which generates revenue through GMX's basically GMX's product itself, which is leverage trading, and that's it basically.
That's cool. And Luis, I think it's your turn.
Yeah. So hi everyone. Like my fellow Romain, I'm French. So I understood the community is rather French here. So in my path into crypto. So heard about crypto back 2012, 2013. Did the big mistake of not reading the Bitcoin white paper at the time. And back 2016, I bought the first literally 10 euros of Bitcoin to track the pricing. You know what? It's like in poker, you need to pay to play the game. And so I put that, work at the company, and starting to work company, and then a couple of months later, it's starting to go a huge craze about buying to that new big thing was called the DAO. And so all my floor was working as a product manager. On my floor was buying ETH and the DAO token until and every day that thing would grow 10%. It was like 9%. And the Friday, I think it was 10 a.m. in Paris, the world crashed. The hack happened and everything, everyone started crying about it. So I sold, remained, actually put back in ETH, forget about it. A couple of months later, I come back to my Kraken account and I think, oh shit, I made money. That's cool. And so, I started to read about the Bitcoin paper and read about the Ethereum white paper and those other things. End of 2017, top of ICO crisis, ICO bomb, etc. Trying to dive into the cryptography of things. I spent the entire year of 2018 not doing anything at work and learning cryptography. That's a very great one of the company you work for is boring also. I feel what you're saying. And so end of 2018, I went full-time working professionally in crypto. I work on advanced cryptography, started Meetup, worked a bit with the Ethereum Foundation, and by mid 2019, I joined Starkware. And so I don't know if people know about Starkware here, but Starkware is the creator of StarkX and StarkNet, which are the first and most used ZK rollup in the world. And today I'm in charge of the ecosystem is at Starkware. And so my role is to make sure that all the dev in the project that join the ecosystem find what they want.
That's great. Thank you very much, Luis. It's good that you presented Starkware. I think it would be nice if Conflip can briefly present GMX.
Yes, no, absolutely. So GMX is a perpetual and spot exchange deployed on the Arbitrum L2 and the Avalanche L1 chain, C chain. We effectively are present on public blockchains. We create liquid on-chain markets for large crypto assets using a combination of liquidity pools and Oracle pricing to try to replicate and bring the best price execution that people get across crypto onto on-chain environments. And we've been deployed since late 2021, first on Arbitrum and then at the beginning of 2022 on Avalanche, and we're nearing in on 100 billion of traded volume, hopefully in the next couple of days.
Yeah, that's crazy. And by the way, today it's GMX all-time high. So I'm glad to have you on the talk.
Yeah.
Hey, how's the Starkware token is doing? Is it all-time high?
So it's extremely high, as in it's as high as you want since it doesn't exist.
It is.
It's not.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it lower than it was today.
And I've never seen it higher than it was today. You're right. That's the beauty of dreams.
Yeah.
The funny story. Every time we tweet something, like the first tweet is like 1 token. Like, come on, guys.
1 token, sir.
We're building real tech. The tokens will come. But we're building real tech first.
But you know what? One thing I will just say that obviously we started building GMX, which sort of was this outgrowth of a DAO that was on BSC and Ethereum, etc. What's actually been really good, I think, and with a little bit of watching on what's happening in the Stark universe and what's been happening in Arbitrum as well, the fact that there hasn't been a token meant that during this last year of the bear market, which may be continuing, may not be, God only knows, it's instead put the focus on building and product as opposed to token price for because I love what we're doing on Avalanche, but obviously as Avalanche token price was going down, people suddenly became negative for the exact same thing, even if the product was getting better. So I think that's actually been a bit of a benefit for these chains that have not had a token during this period.
That's really good, really interesting. I agree with you and Conflip. And so why did you start building on Arbitrum in the first place?
Yeah, so the decision for coming to Arbitrum was interesting because it really came down to a lot of community discussion on where should what had become GMX, which was this merger of, as I said, a protocol on BSC and one on Ethereum mainnet. Ethereum mainnet was our original home, but it was just fundamentally unpractical. It was not practical to deploy the type of protocol that GMX was within those environments, both from gas cost, block time, etc. And so a lot of it did come down to an evaluation of, other L1s and also L2s. And I think we sort of zeroed in on an Ethereum L2 because I think there was a great affinity to Ethereum of over time being able to draw security from Ethereum itself, the sort of future roadmap that was had built out there. And to be fair, I think Stark wasn't on our horizon because of coding languages and the like at that stage. I know there's been a lot of evolution there, with is it Warp, I guess, and stuff subsequently. But at that time, I think it was Optimism and Arbitrum, and both from comfort in terms of what the team at Offchain Labs was building, and the fact that actually Arbitrum launched very openly. There was no white list of which protocols could come to Arbitrum. There was no restriction. And I think that very much fit with our ethos to just be able to go somewhere where we knew we could go and build and sort of bring our community over and unify our community in one spot. And yeah, I think the fact that, we got to be there on, call it launch day, the chain went live to the public and we got to deploy at the same time. I think it was a nice feel.
Very interesting. And why did you deploy on Avalanche after going on Arbitrum?
So, few reasons. One was I would say that the team at Ava Labs, who sort of oversee Avalanche, I would definitely say they definitely showed a lot of love, and I don't know how else to put it. I mean, we were in the sense that I want to say that there was no promises of money, anything. I think they really just made the case that, listen, we have a DeFi environment. We think there's other protocols here you can work with. We really think that what you're doing, our blockchain is well suited to. And after doing a review, we definitely agree. I mean, I think the environment in terms of basically instant finality, quick block times, there was a lot of opportunity there the way it was structured. I don't want to take anything away from any of these, the various EVM chains. I think all of them are doing slightly different variants trying to tackle this. But, I think the fact that we could see where they were going to bring new users into crypto, how those new users could eventually interact with us, and how there was an ecosystem around us that we could build on, were all appealing factors. And it's taken a little longer on Avalanche, but everything that I saw being done, early last year, I'm now starting to see the fruits of that bear out.
Yeah. And do you have your own subnet on Avalanche?
We don't. As of now, and probably for the foreseeable timeline, we intend to stay sort of on the primary public blockchains. We think that gives us a lot of benefits in terms of composability and working with other protocols. Because GMX has really evolved to be a base layer, and it's kind of funny, I'm going to say base layer or a middle layer, because we now have so many protocols who are building out products to build up liquidity for GMX below. We have people building trading platforms like what IT Burns has mentioned in terms of copy trading. So we're really trying to be in a spot where everybody can build in and around GMX, and we can just provide that base, liquid market that everybody can sort of play on. In time, a subnet or an app chain, I think those things are all possible. We just think that they create more friction today. And I think that the public blockchains are, at least so far, not so congested that we would need to move out from the public blockchains.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen on maybe you all guys have seen it, like the proposal from BNB Chain to deploy GMX on BSC.
Mm-hmm.
First, I would like to know, what do you think of it? And
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that Polygon has also put up a proposal, and the team from BNB Chain also did.
okay.
We've had probably a little bit more discussions with BNB Chain, because I think it's been interesting, because sort of the things that I mentioned to you about Avalanche just a moment ago also apply, but in slightly different ways when it comes to BNB Chain.
Yeah.
I think that if we have a product in GMX that creates these big, large liquid markets that really make it very convenient for a retail trader to be able to trade and do so, with control of their keys, control of their wallets, and do it directly on chain. In that sense, I think BNB Chain has a very wide base of retail users,
Yeah.
who sort of bring a fresh audience compared to, for example, I think users on, say, Arbitrum and Optimism and these areas, which really are a little bit more advanced users. I think BNB Chain does have, I think, a little bit more of a wide retail base.
Yeah, a lot.
Binance has done a very good job with making sure also that BNB chain is very well connected with a lot of the digital wallets that a lot of people are now using. Obviously, Trust Wallet is owned by them, C98, a number of them. And so I think, opportunities to build on BNB chain is really a great opportunity to get a lot of exposure to retail traders and give those retail traders that same professional experience that we've been able to offer on Arbitrum and Avalanche. And I think the other interesting thing has to do with GMX Synths or kind of our 2.0, which is that we are now hoping to make markets for a lot more tokens. And BNB chain has deep liquidity for a lot more tokens, actually more so than probably any other L1 or L2, in the sense that, if you wanted to get a liquid market for ADA or Doge, you're going to find more liquidity through the BNB Binance pegged tokens available on BNB chain compared to any other place on chain. I mean, other than going to Doge, which is not a programmable chain, or ADA, which actually right now is also not a smart contract chain yet. but yeah, so I think there's some interesting aspects to BNB chain that are, not being repetitive, but they're interesting. And I think it's going to be for the community to decide, do they think that's more appealing? Do they think, a Matic that also has an additional set of users is interesting? Or do we think that nothing is, and we think we should just stay where we are, which is also a viable option? So I think there's been a lot of healthy discussion.
So, your main criteria to deploy on a new chain would be the amount of users more than the quality or the aesthetic of the chain, how it has been built, or...
So again, going to the history, when what was Gambit sort of closed and merged into GMX, which was originally on what was then BSC, now BNB chain, it did so because there was issues with the quality of the chain. A lot of the efforts in terms of the RPC nodes were being throttled. You couldn't get transactions settled. There were a lot of issues. No doubt there's obviously a historical centralization factor that comes up with BNB chain. I'm not going to, I think that's quite evident. But I think, a lot of the times, even with something like GMX, we say, look, judge us by our actions and the direction that we're moving in. For example, I can say that there are aspects that are not fully decentralized yet with GMX, but we can show every day in how we're moving in that direction. And I do want to give BNB chain and even Polygon a lot of credit that, everybody's at least showing how they are continuing to decentralize. They don't obviously originate from that same pure base that, say, Ethereum did. Although even Ethereum had an ICO and everything else. But I mean, like, as in the histories are different. I think we will look at where, if there's an ecosystem of builders, if there is users who are not being well served where we are right now, I think those are the things that we will try to keep in mind. And go from there. I mean, I think that's kind of how we're thinking about it. But again, I can think what I may think, but it really is the community who will decide. They're the ones who decided we would go to Arbitrum. They're the ones who said, let's expand and go to Avalanche. That's really something that's been a ground up effort to make these decisions.
Yeah. And so, Luis, maybe you can give us some insight on why should GMX build on Starknet?
Of course. So it's a great question. There is basically three reasons why people. So okay, I'm going to give you a tiny bit of context with Starknet, right? So Starknet is this general purpose VKL2, meaning in the sense that it's a layer 2 that uses zero knowledge technology to scale and to shrink the chain to be more efficient. And so the technology gives you 2.5 technical argument for you to join. So the 2.5 is the following one. The first one is you get cheap call data, which is very technical, but basically it means that Oracle price is very cheap and can be potentially injected on the fly in the transaction. Computation is cheap because you don't have to recompute it afterwards. You can just compress it once, then you'll have to repay forever. So computation is cheap. Sending data to the chain is cheap. And the consequence of also having to build a blockchain from the ground up or layer from the ground up is that we were able to directly leapfrog the shortcomings of existing chain, especially EVM chain, which specifically is the account abstraction. So I don't know if you're all familiar with that. Basically, on Ethereum or on the other EVM chain, you have two types of accounts. You have like your private keys, your accounts, and what we call EOAs, and your smart contract, and sometimes smart contract wallets like Argent. And so this is the biggest. The existence of these private keys is by far the biggest mistake ever made in crypto. And it's not me saying that, it's basically Vitalik and everyone in the dev community on Ethereum who's saying that. That's why one of the biggest EIP or upgrade Ethereum coming is called EIP 4337, which is like this move from private keys to what we call smart contract wallet. And so Starknet has smart contract wallet by default. And the reason we have by default is basically because we learned from 7 years of how you build blockchain and jump directly to that. And so why would GMX want to move to such a tech? So first of all, VKPs has been proven to be able to be running high performance trading environment. We've been working with DYDX for a very long time, and for Mutable and for many other players, also Apex. But the real reason from a pure technical perspective would be relying on one of them. And so the question I more have for GMX is like, what would we like to do that you can't do because of the way 3T work, right? And so the other advantage of going from the ground up, and actually it's funny, Steven from Altrude posted something similar today, is that you actually don't have to follow exactly what Ethereum has done. And so you can start incorporating innovation from other places to your chain without having to be, having to overthink it. So for instance, we are looking into ways to do parallelization through what we call a block STM, which is something invented by Atos and Sui. We are looking at things like a data structure of the object data structure that is used in Atos and Sui. And we can, because we are building everything from scratch and we don't have to worry too much about backward compatibility, we can do those things without much impact on the performance or even on the system itself. And so that's a pure technical reason why GMX will move, but they won't move for that because tech is tech, and at the end of the day, I guess what Conflip said, at the end of the day, it's users. The real reason I would say for GMX at some point to move is, or to move to build also on top is Starknet as an extremely innovative and active community doing things that were never seen before. So for instance, on the account abstraction, we have a company called Cartridge, who did this NFT drop where you basically don't have to install any wallets, everything is on the browsers, and you're signing and they're deploying and signing with your Face ID on your phone. Or you have those guys like the guys that from Herodotus were doing trustless bridges by using some technicals called storage proofs to bring back data from the past and prove them directly on it. And so those things are not things you can do anywhere else. And so those people are building new things, and at some point, that's a part of the community that's as an innovator at GMX you want to be part of. I think that's the reason they will move, because the community is awesome and building cool shit.
So, I mean, I think just to share with Lewis, I mean, I definitely had a great opportunity to meet up with part of the Stark community this summer in Paris for your Stark. Yeah. So the conference was there. It was great to be able to catch up with, members of the Stark community and leadership. And I think, I think we're big fans of anybody who's just pushing the boundaries and really, building these environments. And I think I give immense credit because I think the challenges that you guys are dealing with are so much bigger than what, GMX is dealing with, but you're right. I mean, I think there are practical considerations in the short term that come up with everybody as you sort of deal with alternate tech stacks and needing to make those transitions. And I think you've done a great job with helping to bridge the existing large EVM community to try to come over to Stark with the what's it called? The transwarp.
Transpire, it's warp. Yeah.
But I think it's only about, I just said, I think, even taking what Stephen mentioned from off chain, I mean, I think I think the different elements that are happening now with the various L2s looking to bring the wider development community that's outside of the existing, let's say, EVM centric or Rust centric community, potentially to be able to build and bring that over very flexibly onto these various blockchains. I mean, I think that's going to be a game changer. I mean, it literally opens up the universe of developers who can be working in this space by 100x or more, and who I think, a lot of the blockchain aspect will get abstracted away to behind. Hopefully, as you said, even from the wallet standpoint, the user standpoint starts to also abstract away a lot of the complexity and user experience that people are having. I mean, listen, I think at a certain point, I mean, you'll know better than me. It'll be really interesting to see what will become the differentiator now between these various chains, because at a certain point, everybody's kind of converging to a lot of similar, improvements in the environments they're creating. That you can speak to. I really can't figure out. I mean, I think as a builder, we're thrilled. It's just better and better environments to build in. In the next few years, maybe GMX can be pulling in developers who have no blockchain experience, and very easily we can scale up in areas of our growth that we don't need to constrain the way we are today to find those appropriate resources.
And that's definitely true. That's actually funny you said that we tried to bring the Solidity developer community. We actually didn't really try, in all honesty, so far. We actually didn't put much effort there. For a very simple reason, is because we are in a very early stack, and work is an attempt. And it is production ready, and you can use it. But we didn't really go after you guys. Otherwise, I hope we're not having this conversation. I would be like, we'd have GMX and Starknet right now, but we don't, because we don't really try very hard to bring. And the same can be said for basically any project. We didn't try to go for a project that already have the big code base, because as you said, like, we want to. The purpose is to showcase use cases and bring people that are don't have this legacy of an existing code base, an existing stack, an existing infrastructure, which has a lot more consideration to have than someone who just starting from scratch and goes with what he actually wants to build because the tech enables it. So it's really this is really early stage, and so I'm going to contact Starknet piece, and so I'm really looking forward for the next month or so, like the next couple of months coming, where I would be able to say in all honesty, guys, come now. It's like it's ready for you. But it's going to happen in the next month. But right now, it's the reason why we don't have it there. I hope.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Luis, going back in time, I can tell you that the reason we chose to move from back then Gambit, which was on BNB chain, the reason we chose to move from BNB chain to Arbitrum was mostly with few factors. One of them was to look at what the future would be, and how we think users will choose a chain that is more decentralized, more developer oriented, and more scalable. So I remember that the community, the core developers, took very high risk to move into Arbitrum, where Arbitrum didn't even launch. We just used the test version of Arbitrum as onboarding mechanism to see if we can launch GMX on Arbitrum. So at that time, I think the use case was just to go ahead in time and choose something that we think the future will onboard. So I think at that time it made sense that that will build on Arbitrum rather than stay on BNB chain. And I can definitely see a possibility that we'll choose a ZK technology because it seems like the right choice for the future. And hopefully, I think it makes sense that Starkware might be the one who pioneers it and be the first one to actually really make it.
Can't wait to see that. And I have a question for you guys. Like, how does it work for GMX when you deploy on a new chain? Like, does it impact the supply of the token? Do you need to mint to create more tokens, or how do you deal with it?
Well, I think it does come about how it comes up in part with how we decide to bootstrap a specific market. For example, we might want to give some liquidity incentives towards bootstrapping initial liquidity onto a new chain. Something that we're hopefully don't want to have to do as much of now. I think we've really tried to show and prove out the platform, be able to show people that it's been, being a liquidity provider on GMX, helping to create these big, deep liquid trading markets has been, quite profitable for liquidity providers, which sort of reduces the necessity of incentives. Some amount, though, I think we would do just to bring attention. Beyond that, we would move. I think any chain that we would deploy on, we would obviously consider also deploying the GMX token over there. So maybe we would move some of our protocol owned liquidity potentially maybe into one of these additional chains as and where we expand. But I don't see it being specifically, requiring a lot of token emission. What I will mention though is that I think any chain extension we do will now come out with the new platform, what we're calling GMX Synths, which both is sort of taken a lot of what the ideas we took with GLP, tried to make them, we think, a little bit more sustainable to be able to launch more and more tokens, because we think that that model works very well for the very large, most liquid markets. Let's basically call them, BTC and ETH. We think for these other markets, isolated markets will work better. We think we'll be able to target specific liquidity providers, target market makers, everybody else, to really help grow these markets so that on chain you have, community liquidity, community trading, all being well supported for perpetuals markets, alongside the sort of spot markets that have already been very, prevalent within crypto.
Okay. And I think it's time we can start taking questions from the community. So here is the first one, a view regarding Cosmos. We've talked a lot about optimistic ZK rollup. What about Cosmos?
In regards deploying GMX contracts into to build a Cosmos chain that is GMX?
Could you, DYDX made this move and went to Cosmos. Is it something you could consider?
It didn't go yet. They're not live yet. I can say that for a fact. They're not live yet.
That is correct. Well, I'll put it this way. I can say that I don't think I've seen Cosmos come up very often in our discussions, our community discussions. That's not saying anything's not possible in the future. I mean, I definitely think that, the blockchain space is going to get more and more interconnected. Obviously, Cosmos is very much built on that idea. I think we're quite happy with the type of environments we're building in. I think, but so I think anything's possible. As you said, is an app chain a possibility? Yes, if we get to the point that an app chain doesn't become a barrier to adoption. Like DYDX probably has a certain perspective as to how they want to control an ecosystem around them. We kind of try to build our little piece, and we have everybody else building out, many layers. I mean, there's, like, for example, there's probably a half dozen different bridges and platforms for you to get, liquidity and be able to do trading on, trading on GMX on the public chains we're present on. We'll be announcing a pilot program with a protocol called DAPOS in the next couple of days, where in theory from almost any EVM chain, they will abstract away and deal with the bridging and everything else and let you be sitting on Matic, Polygon, wherever. I'm not even sure. We'll find out. Maybe even on Stark, and be able to from there effectively allow you to send cross-chain messaging to be able to still trade on the other public chains we're present on. There's lags, there's delays, it's not a perfect solution, but we'd much rather find solutions in the public realm if we can. That's our current thinking, but I definitely can say that our mind does see potential and viability in app specific, but why does it have to be Cosmos? Why can't it be Stark has their own private chains, so does Avalanche. Arbitrum already has Nova, and app chains or a variant is possible. I mean, I don't know if it's Cosmos specifically by any means, if it ever goes that way.
Nice. Let's take another question.
By the way, GNS, great protocol. I mean, I really congratulate them on coming across to Arbitrum, and I think I want to separate GNS because I really give them a lot of credit for being longtime builders, also sort of in the same space that we are, or UIDX or others are. But yeah, I mean, we've experienced literally, I think, a perpetual exchange a week deploying on Arbitrum for the last little while. It's become,
yes,
and again, I think you could say that's it's flattering because I think obviously the ecosystem that's developed in Arbitrum has been very DeFi conducive, sort of people being able to work together. So I think that's really interesting. In terms of deploying to Polygon or anywhere else, I mean, I don't think we would make that decision just because somebody has come across to Arbitrum. That's not the way we think about it. I assume this person is saying this in jest, but no, I think, listen, if there are users who are not being well served, I think, we would definitely evaluate if it makes sense to come across. And I think that's one of the really good things about the GMX DAO, our community. They're very practical about looking at, what's best for growing out the protocol, making sure that protocol is available to as many people in the right way. I've actually always been very surprised at how practical, our DAO has been.
Can I give a different answer, CoinFlip?
Yeah, of course.
So I think the next generation of GMX, which is Synthetics, has the design of very similar to Uniswap, in which it's very easy to deploy the mechanics of GMX Synthetics, because the design has very, very little operation required to maintain. And well, so far as much as I've seen. So I think it will be eventually very easy to deploy on multiple chains, as long as they have EVM compatibility and the way we can manage liquidity throughout these chains. That's as far as I understood.
Yeah, so I would definitely say that, for example, one of the things that we find very interesting, whenever I'm sort of engaged with our other contributors on the development side, and I know IT Burn spends a lot of time coordinating with them as well. There has been countless forks of GMX across sort of, the EVM verse. I mean, it's crazy. I think in last check, I thought it was like the third or fourth most forked protocol, which we find quite shocking. But we take a lot. I mean, for example, when we were to deploy on, say, Arbitrum, we know how much time we spent, contributors spent, focusing on making sure that deployment was rock solid. And we do think it takes a lot of bandwidth. And so, I think as IT Burn said, GMX Synths is a far more flexible platform. It's one that definitely deploying to more chains will not cause as much overhead for it to happen. And so I think it is a lot easier for us to do so. It's just a matter of, as we said, we just want to find a way to concentrate and reach as many users as possible, but without, fragmenting too much as well.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of protocol trying to kind of copy you and doing decentralized perp, gains network, of course, but there's also yieldification, injective and others. The one from Synthetics, like not the Synthetics you are gonna deploy soon, but Kerma on ETH. I don't know if you know this one. And yeah, how do you compare with them? How you compete with them? Are you even looking at them, or are you just focusing on building and shipping, delivering? And
So I think one of the things that often happens is that I think when we think about this, do we notice that other people are deploying? Absolutely, but I think our focus is more that the more and more places that are present, the more and more exchanges that are available on chain, the more people will natively come to an on chain environment. And I think we feel comfortable that call it our flavor of exchange has some unique properties that will continue to do well, and I think our community has definitely been a big part of that. It's become a very nice place for people to enter their on-chain experience. To use that example, centralized exchanges. I mean, the more centralized exchanges that came up and targeted different segments of the wider universe, the more people who were introduced probably to the first time to crypto through that. So, I think we generally view that more is probably better. And, does that mean GMX will own the same percentage of this market? No, it won't. And we never would have wanted that. We'd be a lot happier seeing the market grow as a whole. So I think, competition will continue to push everyone forward and yay for competition.
It's a great answer. I also believe that the more actors you are, the more dynamic is the space, and the more people you can bring in. And let's see another question. Someone wanting you to have a mobile app. Have you thought about it? Maybe on the Solana phone.
Oh yeah, there you go. So a couple of quick things. I would definitely say that if you experience the GMX app.gmx.io on a Web3 browser, you will definitely find a very mobile optimized experience. That's actually been a very important aspect. But I think the other thing that we've been also doing is working with various mobile wallets to potentially look at native integrations, so that to a certain extent the GMX interface can be abstracted away and they can be natively part of their wallet. So there's a wallet called Changey, CHAINGY, who have both integrated a native tab in their wallet to be able to trade on GMX, but also a link out in case you want to go to the GMX platform to do anything advanced or look at anything back to your smart contracts. Again, that just means that it reduces the friction for new users who are coming into the space, especially since mobile wallets do tend to be the first point of interface. And our hope is that once GMX Synth launches, and especially on a variety of chains, including possibly BNB, Polygon, who have an even better footprint with these mobile wallets, I think you'll see possibly more integrations for GMX in those wallets. And I think that's one of the ways that we think it can work very well. GMX also has a platform, does have a referral and a system that compensates the entire ecosystem who's growing the platform, does so in a very clean, transparent manner, as opposed to a lot of the opaqueness that centralized exchanges have, which means that front ends like these mobile wallets also have the potential to earn sustainable revenue that supports the development on these mobile wallets. And I think that's a very important part of this. GMX can only do so much. I think we'd much rather see that as there's volume activity earnings in the ecosystem. Hopefully everybody in the ecosystem is participating in that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of the existing contributors are working on a dedicated mobile wallet, but if somebody wanted to come to the GMX DAO, propose building a wallet, maybe there'll be a grant, maybe some incentives, something to help see that forward. So we're a wide open platform that way as a community. So if somebody wants to build, there is definitely resources there to support that.
That's a great answer. So I think now you can go to the governance forum, Elias, and make your proposal. And how does the governance work? Can you tell us a bit more about it? Because I can see it's very active and it's not really common for a governance forum.
Yeah, so I mean, we have two sort of aspects currently of our governance. One is gov.gmx.io, which is really our forum for discussing proposals and the like. We are actually, one of the focuses over the coming months is to actually put even a little bit more structure around it, because I think while our community has been very engaged, there's been certain areas where we really want to try to get a lot more robust discussion, risk parameters, chain expansion, how we continue to work towards decentralizing the protocol. So I think I think even more discussion will keep happening. As mentioned before, I think one of the great things is that we've had a very knowledgeable and very practical community historically, which meant that our discussions have actually been, not very absolutist, not very maximalist on anything. It's really been about how do we continue to, do best for the protocol. I think, we've been very lucky. Partially the way our tokenomics are set up, it really leads towards long-term contributors, long-term owners of the token, participants in governance, who I think take a nice long perspective in terms of how this growth should happen. Beyond that, we also have snapshot voting, which again, as major decisions sort of move through governance forums, they then move over to go forward to voting if it involves the DAO and the DAO's resources. So one of the more active areas in the last few months have actually been a number of treasury swaps that we've been doing, which have both been seeding the DAO with sort of some exposure to a lot of people who are building in and around GMX, and also seeding a lot of these protocols with an interest in GMX tokens, locked up to provide long-term incentives towards the efforts that they have building on GMX and being aligned with GMX.
Yeah, very nice. And maybe it's a good timing to speak about Puppet Finance and IT Burns. I don't know if you want to talk about it and how it works to build on top of GMX.
Yeah. First, I'll just a little bit going back to the other question, which is user-friendly mobile interface. We actually created our own GMX trading interface, and we are also using the GMX referral as an income source for ourselves. So, that's one of the things which is nice as GMX allows this composability for builders and wallet to implement this mechanism and revenue for themselves. So Puppet. Puppet is a structured product built on GMX, and it allows investors to copy performance traders. And this product basically is one of the products of Blueberry Club. Right now, we just released yesterday GBC Trading, which is the trading UI I just talked about. And Puppet is also like a composition of this product. So Puppet itself will take time to release because we hope that it will build on GMX Synthetics. But for now, we are trying to build as much as possible key components that compose Puppet as a product.
And how does it work, your collaboration with the governance forum, and how all this happened?
Yeah, it happens basically from me trying to see how I can bring the liveness of GMX, like how I want. I think we wanted to have some kind of an explorer to see who's trading what, how many traders there are. We want to see the activity that is happening on GMX. So I built the GMX house. The URL is basically gmx.house. So you can go there and you can see all the activity that is happening. Sorry?
The leaderboard?
Yeah. So that's the leaderboard. And it made sense that there was a lot of feature requirements to copy trade those top traders. So that was the idea of building a copy trading platform. And as you know, there's already really known ones, which is STFX, which has just finished their first round of I think the valuation is 40 million, which is very nice. And what we're trying to do is something a little bit different. STFX itself is very successful, but I think that there's better ways to improve.
Okay.
So STFX is basically a vault-controlled trade, and I think it has some flexibility issues and a lot of asymmetry, where the trader himself has the investor transfer risk to the trader, and there's a lot of complexity and issues with that. There's problems of liquidity flexibility, meaning that your deposit just sit idle and doesn't do anything. Another problem is that the trader has control of the trade, which sometimes you don't want to do it necessarily. So the idea of Puppet is making a matchmaking machine, which means that you deposit your fund, you deposit into a single fund, and you copy trade as many as possible traders that you believe that they will generate profit. And each time a trade occurs, it will only risk a very small portion of the fund and will not risk all of it. So slowly over time, what you will see is basically like your trading portfolio, like your token portfolio. Some tokens are overperforming and some tokens are underperforming. So your job is simply just to remove those who are underperforming, right? Because you want an ever-growing portfolio which is successful.
That's very interesting, and I really like the fact that you can build pretty much everything on top of GMX. Luis, I have a question for you before you sleep. Question from Elias. He's asking about the main difference between ZK Rollup and Polygon from Stark.
Sure. It's actually an interesting one. Polygon purchased last year 3 teams that were doing Starks, respectively Hermes, Maiden, and Polygon Zero. For the story, by the way, and I'm going to shield for a second, the conference in Tel Aviv that happens next week. There is a conference on the 5-6 of February in Tel Aviv, and Jordi from Hermes and Bobin from Maiden and all the VK guys and all the Stark people will be there, and a lot more people will just, there is a very good conference coming up, starkwaresession.com. Okay, so now on the detail. So Starkware made a very different bet than the rest of the ecosystem from the get-go, which is to optimize for performance and for performance versus optimizing for backward compatibility. So if you take, for instance, Polygon and let's take Hermes, which is the most advanced one, they are targeting type 3, what we call type 3 DKVM, meaning the way that the DKVM works is basically you can actually run the bytecode, the actual compiled version of the program, the final product of what the program would look like, and run it on the chain. And so to do that, you have to understand that the way VKPs work and the way your computer work are very, very different, like fundamentally different. And so by making that choice, you make a compromise. You're basically trying to retrofit something that wasn't made for this model of computation, this DK model of computation, and retrofit it into the one that you have. We took the path of performance, saying, you know what, we're going to go for performance, and once we have performance, we will bring backward compatibility. That's actually what we're seeing right now. So Starknet, as far as I don't know the performance numbers of the other chain, but is probably the most performant one at the moment, and the performance is going to grow exponentially in the next 3 months. most of the reason why the chain is very slow right now is because we were developing Python to be fast, to write it fast, and now we're replacing everything by Rust, which makes that all of that would be converging in 3 months. And so because we get the performance now and all the features and so on, we can finally have other people, not us, doing the backward compatibility work. So there is 2 teams working on this. The first one is with a team called Warp that Conflict talked about before. And Warp is a transpiler. It basically takes the zk sync approach, which means basically taking the solidity and converting it into what we call Cairo. And there is another one called Kakarot. Kakarot is a community-driven project, actually not only French, but very, very much French. And I say hi to my to the people from to Clément and Elias, who are leading the project right now, and they are basically building a KVM in Cairo directly. And they were able to get feature parity with probably every chain, every ZKVM right now available in 3 months. Literally, they started the Kakarot project, and it's a funny story. The Kakarot project started because Abdel got triggered by a tweet by Mark Zeller at DEF CON. That's a story. The Mark posted like writing deploying on Starknet is you need a Soyuz degree, like you need to be able to write a spaceship, and deploying on Polygon was a copy paste. And Abdel, who was my colleague, basically got so upset by this. He started a whole project by himself and triggered a lot of community members to start working on it and taking on eventually. And so, in 3 months, they managed to get feature parity, and it's not finished. I would not be surprised if they were actually the first ZKVM in production. We'll see. What I'm trying to say that the technical difference is the core principle, which is we're using same thing, but we are targeting different goals. We're getting for performance, they are targeting backward compatibility and try to bring performance through the backward compatibility framework. We target performance, and some others are actually now bringing the backward compatibility. So that's basically the main difference. And we think that this approach is more flexible and therefore will yield better results. Kakarot like Son Goku, yes, literally like Son Goku. I can send you the Twitter. Let me send you the Twitter account.
You can share your screen.
That is a bit. I'm going to. Can I post in the comments? I'm sending in.
Yeah, you can post in the comments.
I don't know how to post it. I'm not logged in, so can you do it?
Yeah.
The why Kakarot is because my dear friend Abdel is a huge fan of of mangas in general.
Nice. Guys, I propose. Okay, last question from the chat. Let's take this one. It's a tough one. What are the best question solution? So I don't know if you want to answer. Like, what did you guys try? Stargate, Axelar, Wormhole. I don't know. What?
I can talk about one that I'm very close with. So actually, no, they don't even Starknet. So
go
so
ahead.
I can bring one. It's two actually. One that is notably being on Starknet. The other one I've been trying to convince them to be on Starknet for very long. The first, this one, the second one is Socket.tech. Socket is founded by a guy called VC, who's Bahab, who's one of the first engineers at Polygon for the story back in 2019, and they're doing like a whole framework. They started as a bridge aggregator, and now they are pushing the next level to do a cross-chain execution, meaning that you do a transaction on one end, and basically it's execute all the way back to your endpoint. Let's say you have money on Polygon, and GMX is on Polygon, you could trade from Polygon to GMX. And the second one I'm very much a fan of is called Herodotus. It's this trustless oracle I told before. I'm calling them cross-chain because basically what they do is that they are able to provide information about a chain versus the other trustlessly using ZK. And a couple of teams right now are using it or planning to use it to bridge this cross-chain liquidity. So I have a competition from GMX working on this called the Sphinx, Overperk protocol, and they're not the only one. The guy from Loot wants to use it, the Snapshot wants to use it, and so on. So Herodotus.dev.
IT Burns, CoinFlip, any cross-chain solution you are looking at, bullish on?
Yeah, I can say that Socket is awesome. They have a lot of tooling, like asynchronous tooling to dealing with events, which is really awesome. And I think that's how blockchain should have been built. Like to have like an event-based blockchain, it would be absolutely awesome. Unfortunately, it's completely different and pretty much very atomic. But they have a really different approach to how to build on blockchains, which is nice. And yeah, that's for me as a cross-chain solution. Socket is absolutely awesome. It's like worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think bridges, what sockets, as IT Burn said, we are talking to them. Axlar, there's countless that are doing, I think, very interesting things as to how you deal with both cross-chain movement of assets and messaging. And I think we just as we said, I mean, I think what they're doing is great. We're just being slow and steady as we look at adoption ourselves. But yeah, I mean, I think the most exciting stuff is also sometimes in the early days some of the most risky. So we're just being a touch careful, but while still trying to be as innovative as possible. But no, I mean, I think the list of number of things that you find interesting today is probably never ending. So I'm not even going to try to start.
Nice,
Yeah,
guys.
but I think it will make sense a lot to use some kind of a solution to layer out the GMX liquidity on multiple chains and deploy contracts on multiple chains. So yeah, I think it will be really be worth to look at a solution that is very scalable and very secure.
Agreed.
Yeah. I feel the cross-chain world is not really mature yet, and a lot of hacks so far, and yes, security is not what it should be. But it's very exciting to see all the builders in this area, in this vertical. Anyway, guys, we approach the end of the talk. I would like to know, what is your roadmap? What are your next steps? I know you guys from GMX need to deploy a Synthetics product. When would it be live?
Yeah, so GMX Synths, I think that sometime towards the end of this quarter, end of February, early March, it should deploy to testnet. And then we'll go through sort of a round between testnet, limited capital deployment on mainnet, and then really opening it up. But a lot of our work really will have to do with how we, can work with everybody in the ecosystem who's building on the platform. So be able to, present that to everybody, allow everybody to start building, things like Puppet and the like. We'd love to see all of those move over at the earliest to support synths so that, people are able to trade all of these wonderful new markets. We really think it's, the next evolution of being able to now allow GMX to scale up and provide even bigger, more liquid markets than it's providing today. So, yeah, that's our roadmap. I think that's really the next 6 months for us is very much focused on that.
That's great. And Luis, what about Starkware, Starknet?
Can you repeat the question?
The next step, your roadmap, the next step.
The next step. Okay, so 3 things. Conference next week. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's the first one. It's close. You can come. It's easy. Second one is Regenesis and what we call Regenesis and Cairo 1. So Regenesis is a process to replace the current version of Cairo by a better version of Cairo called Cairo 1. Cairo being the language of Starknet. Cairo 1 enables us to prepare the decentralization phase because we had an issue with a current version of Caro, which is we can't prove fair transaction, which is a bit of a problem for a blockchain. And now Caro enables us to do it. And the reason I won't get into detail why we couldn't. It comes down to how VKP works. Now it's gonna be working. At the same time, we are the implementation of the Rust VM, which will provide us to a 30x improvement in performance, and which is going from 2 TPS to 50 TPS, 25x. I want to be on the safe side, and which is the current version. And those down the line, we know how to get to much higher numbers. Obviously, just a bit more time to come.
Nice. We will follow all this next step. And my last question, guys, because even if we are all building stuff in Web3, we like to speculate from time to time, and I would like to know, to get some alphas from you. Are there any project out there that you are digging it, looking at, buying some tokens? What are you looking at in this Web3 space?
So which tokens to shield our backs, you mean?
Yes. Is there any project you are looking into?
I own Dice. It's a very nice project, and it's the next generation of casinos.
Okay.
So,
can you write it in the chat?
Oh yeah, sure.
This is not financial advice, by the way. Of course.
Absolutely, no, absolutely.
Never.
Don't buy it.
Never. Don't buy this.
Yeah. So Dice is basically a very simple product. You basically gamble your Dice tokens. You coin flip basically to have a chance to win Dice tokens. So it's an online casino basically, and it's going very well on Arbitrum.
Nice. We'll have a look. So, looking only on Arbitrum project, or do you have any views on other blockchain? Or
for me, I'm just focused on Arbitrum. I understand there's like everything is going on outside, even on Arbitrum, but I still didn't have time because I'm focused building rather than shielding my bags, which I just did.
Nice. Conflip, Luis. Any tokens you are looking at right now? Any project you like?
I don't trade. I have a couple of stories. I can give.
Share them with us.
I don't trade. Because I used to be a bottom indicator. And so I made peace with the fact that I will lose a lot of money, and I will again lose a lot of money. And I apparently have a pocket with an infinite depth. That's how much money I'm losing. So I'm not trading.
Such a whale thing to say,
Oh my god! I wish, my friend. I wish.
I don't watch my bags. I don't know what my portfolio is doing. Just
you're kidding?
That's
actually true. I've not basically didn't touch my wallet for like a year, and I was bleeding money last year because I was like I didn't want to think about it. It was too much intellectual overhead. I was working too much, and so I didn't want to do it.
I have too much
thing to say.
Stark tokens. Yeah.
I told you the Stark token is in the Ether. It doesn't exist.
Anyways, I mean, I think, although I'm not sure if it burns as a trader, I'm probably like Lewis. I'm a horrible trader. It's probably why I actually like being a liquidity provider in GMX, in GLP, and in various platforms, because let people trade, let people work, let that sort of deliver for me. I actually also own some Dice. I don't even remember when I bought it, but I did buy it because I tend to buy things in all sorts of little smaller, interesting platforms that are deploying on Arbitrum. Just end up seeing a lot more on Arbitrum and Avalanche since that's where we're working. We have a treasury swap up for GMX right now for Gamma Swap. Full disclosure, I actually did invest in Gamma Swap. So that's maybe one. There's no token or anything to buy right now, but definitely a protocol that I think is worth keeping an eye on. I mean, I think it's always nice to see people who are just coming up with ideas and trying to implement new things in DeFi. And that's one of the great things, right? That we're allowed to still experiment. I mean, invariably, as certain protocols get bigger, it's a little hard to experiment. So it's always nice to keep an eye on smaller, young protocols that really have that freedom still. So yeah, I mean, keep an eye on Gamma Swap.
That's cool. We'll definitely have a look. I've seen the proposal on the governance forum. And yeah, I think we are at the end of the podcast. Thank you very much, guys. It was a great pleasure to have you here. And you come back whenever you want. And see you in Tel Aviv, some of you.
Sure. See ya. Oh, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.